Okay, it's recording, you guys.
Hi, Miss Wright.
Come closer.
Maybe you might have to edit this in a bit.
Okay, I think it's okay. There we go.
Okay. There you go.
Okay, so.
Oh.
Okay,
Yes,
so,
ma'am.
sorry. Yeah, close it.
So, I guess you're gonna edit this part out.
No, that's 15 minutes.
You're gonna put that part into the movie?
Yes, I am.
Oh, God. So we're here today to talk about A Larger Memory by Ronald Takaki. And it's about a lot of stories put together.
Okay, so first I'm gonna start, I guess. So I am gonna talk about El Norte up from Mexico. So this kind of hits home because it talks about the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo, where it stopped the war against, I'm assuming, U.S. and Mexico, and it transferred over with the 1 million square miles to the United States. It also stated how many of the Mexicans were migrating here. From the total of 1900 to 1930, approximately more than 1 million people had migrated to the United States, and they were here for their wage, for the job opportunities, where people stated that there was work for people who wanted to work. And since there was the Immigration Act excluded Asian labor, most of the people were looking for Mexican migrant workers. Any comments on that, guys?
So what did you learn?
I learned the history of why we have a lot of Mexican ancestry here, mostly in California, since there was a lot of agriculture, a lot of farms.
Yeah.
Okay, what will be next?
Well, I wrote, I wrote some notes on the story I read, and it's kind of explicit. It's called Get This N-Word in the Cotton Patch. Well, it says get this N-word to the Cotton Patch. And it's basically,
Can't you just say the word? I mean, we're on family here.
Okay, it says get this nigger to the Cotton Patch. And it just tells about how slaves were treated, and how the slave master whipped the African Americans, which were then black slaves, Negro slaves at the time, to conform, to do what they were told as far as working the land. And a lot of the slaves stole food because they were hungry. And they were beaten real severely for, stealing any little thing like that, even though the masters wasn't feeding them well. And the masters would offer more cruelty by rubbing salt into their wounds after they beat them and break their skin open. And it really touched me, because there's a lot of that going on today, but it's in a different aspect. But I don't want to get off topic. But anyone else has anything to add to that?
So you said even their food, right? If they would get food that was appetizing to the white man would take it, right?
Yeah.
So they would just leave them with whatever they didn't want.
Right. And that's why they call bacon slave food and things like that, because that's the only meat that we were allowed to eat, like the scraps of bacon, not even the full meat, just the scrap fat. And
isn't that how they made gumbo in the first place?
Yeah, because we had to put everything, the slaves had to put everything together to make the food spread.
But that's part of the effect of it, because they were prone to that, and it kind of became a lifestyle. It's like Mexicans, they're so poor that they use every part of the pig's or the animal's body. They use everything. They don't waste anything because of the poverty.
Yeah.
Alex?
So my story is about the Native Americans in Dakota, South Dakota. I forget there's two. The story is called The Coming of the Wasishus, the Black Elk's Boyhood Memories, and how the Manifest Destiny made Caucasian Americans believe that their destiny was to go to the West. And that caused a lot of problems with the indigenous people that came here, that were already living here. So it's about Lakota, who lives in the Ogallala band, and his father was named Black Elk. And it's kind of like a story about how this boy was hearing the elder, the chiefs, and his father's stories about their childhood during the Indian American War, and how these how it affected them, and how like when they were little kids would be playing on war, they would, that's kind of what they were preparing for, and other like stories and folk tales, like the monsters, like now we're like, oh, the monster's gonna get you, or the Wasishus are gonna get you, you better behave, and then they had this fear for white people. And they realized like the white people were misusing the land. Back in the day, the Native Americans and the animals all lived in harmony in the ecosystem, and these people come and put everything into like lands, and they call it islands, but I think it's more like a farm. And before all of this happened, I think his great-great-grandfather had a vision or a prophecy that they would all live in these gray boxes but starve in those boxes. And the world would end. And it's kind of what happened, because in the end, when the Wasishus came, they took everything from them and made them either move or
murder them.
And then it murdered them. There was a lot of war and a lot of blood, a lot of sacrifices. Talked about like a lot of their men were killed, and during like in the middle of the war, the Indians were winning. But then the Wasishus got they got new guns, and they weren't prepared for a new weapon to come in. They got new guns, and they killed most of them as the mothers and children were mourning over them.
Yeah.
And towards the end, they talked about a treaty that was signed to let them keep their land after all the violence and war. And it's kind of, I think that it really didn't do much, because I guess the war ended, but no one won, because no one ever wins in a war. And I feel like it's kind of sad to know, like, I could see why Native American stories are kind of saddening, because like they really did appreciate the resources, the land, the ecosystems, everything that surrounded them, and then
the white
Wasishus came and killed and destroyed everything, and even all they can do is defend what they can, what they had, and the Wasishus had the advantage with guns and gunpowder.
Yeah, you hear a lot of stories about the Indians, and how they say that the Christopher Columbus came over here, but I didn't know that he was a mass murderer of Indians until I started my college years, and it really shocked me. I was just like, I don't even want to follow suit with some of the holidays that we have, because
right?
what does it really mean to me now? It doesn't mean as much to me now, because it's like
now you know the history of it, and that's why they're trying to change Columbus Day to Indigenous, like Happy Indigenous Day. There's a lot of cities in the.
It's like today, and then
there's a lot of cities in the United States.
Today.
It's today, and it's like whatever.
We're still here.
Perfect timing to talk about this story.
Coincidental, right?
There's a lot of cities.
I didn't even think about that. That's
You know what I hate the most is like in the books, I forgot what part, but they were like, oh yeah, God wanted us to come and kill these people, and God, they died easily because God didn't want them. But it was in the book.
State, right?
No, but that's in the book. The book has that, yeah. The book states that the white men used kind of God as an excuse why they killed people, because they were superior and only they were able to.
I remember that part where they're like, "This is God. This is the God land. The God made this land for the white man,
yeah,
the white man, and everyone else is inferior to them. So if they do not kill these people and take their land, they're not serving God for the purpose of that land."
So basically, we were like unholy.
Actually, that was also in the video we saw, the power of illusion, like the power of illusion.
They talked about
They talked about like how they considered the Indians first to be the same as white people.
Yeah.
And like, they're just a little shade of darker.
Because they're in the sun more and stuff like that.
But if we assimilate them, then they'll become white people and civilized. But then when it wasn't
they
in
was
their
looking
favor,
at their hair texture, like, oh, we could change them to how we want them to be.
Yeah, but when it wasn't agreeing with what they wanted, then they're like, oh, I'm gonna be greedy, and this is supposed to be for white men.
Yeah, that's what they cast them all out, and they even felt betrayed because they already had like assimilated. They had.
Yeah, they had changed and everything, and then you still turn on us. Like, that's not right.
So like the idea of Thanksgiving, like giving thanks to like those who give. It's kind of like but after they gave to them, they killed and murdered every single one of them.
I was questioning myself about that the other day. I was like, so what's the purpose of Thanksgiving? I was like, you have the Indians giving like the pilgrims food, but I was like, that's
so they wouldn't
stupid.
Starve, right?
Yeah, and then they repaid them and taking their land and
they come with
other people
and stuff and just
like, there's no other country that celebrates Thanksgiving. We're the only ones, because like Central America, they don't consider that. Like, when the white people came, it's like such a great.
No, doesn't Canada have like a Thanksgiving Day? Yeah, right?
Yeah.
It's not like necessarily Thanksgiving, but it's like similar. I don't know.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
But the difference is like it's the same story. That like these two countries are like
they're the same. Basically.
They're like
the
powers that be are white people in this country and in their country too. When it comes to Central America, Mexico, Guatemala, Honduras, they're all Latinos. So when they realize that their history is kind of like white people came and killed all of their civilization of
Spaniards.
Mayans, it's kind of like they're not going to celebrate Thanksgiving. Thank you for killing us all and giving us smallpox.
The same thing that Christopher Columbus did to the United States, the Spaniards did to, what was it, Cortez, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, he did it to Mexicans too. That's why we're lighter and some of us are darker and stuff like that.
Okay,
Brian, your part?
My story, it kind of relates to hers. Like, it's right after. It's after slavery, a personal account of new bondage. And it basically talks about a guy who was still a slave. He was bought like to a captain, and basically like they treated him as a slave. But then after, at the age of 21, they released him as a slave. He's no longer a slave. But basically, since how slaves were not uneducated, they didn't know anything. They didn't know how to count, how to even write their name.
Because they weren't given education.
Yeah, they weren't given an education. So after they were freed, they were basically still brought into slavery because they would lie to them, like say sign this, even though because they don't know how to read. He was like, sign this, and it probably says you're gonna work for me like for 2 more years.
Right.
And then they were just so basically there was no free of slavery. They were always slaves no matter what. So and it goes to show you how the Americans were, like, it was just the white people they still are. I mean, they show
Trump supporters.
Yeah, exactly.
It still exists.
And
it has never went away.
You kind of see why African Americans are against white people, because they have sort of a grudge because of the way they were treated, and they basically never got their freedom. And you can see it now that they don't have their freedom. I mean, you see a black person, say they go over there and they commit the same crime as a white person, they get harsher punishment than a white person. So they're still slaves for the same crime. Yeah. It was probably a misdemeanor or something like that. It's like 30 years to like 6 months of probation. It's like there's the racism.
Well, where does the white population suffer from affluenza? What is this new term? Affluenza. That's like having too much money, where you're so privileged that you don't take responsibility for none of your actions.
Yes.
That's bullshit.
Like that boy who killed those people in the car.
That's the thing, like, about white people. Well, throughout history, throughout all of this, like, there's always been an excuse. Like, saying, like, we talked about God and how they saw, like, God told them about this. Like, in logical sense, if affluenza is what affects white people, then poverty is what affects black people. So they should be excused for the same thing. But they're not going to listen to something they don't want to listen to. They only take specific parts of what they want to hear and they want to see, and then just put it into perspective. Like, this is what we want.
And what they whitewash, like, take it and make it sound softer than what it really is, but it's still the same thing. But when they do it, it's like, different.
It's normal.
But when we do it, it's like, I don't know, like a dual heavy diagnosis if we do something. Say, for instance, I know that I might sound confusing, but say, for instance, I walk to the store and say I took a candy bar. If they walk to the store and they took a candy bar, they accidentally or, allegedly took it. But I took it. I meant to take it.
Yeah.
That's just like, come on now, we both took it.
Yeah.
It should be fair across the board.
I don't try to justify them
because they don't understand. They're like xenophobic. They think they're ethnocentric, where they believe that their culture is superior to everyone else's, and they don't understand the culture and the way of life that you live, or like how other African Americans live, or throughout history how other African Americans live.
Right.
But it's the same story repeated over and over again.
Yeah.
So we're going to part 2. You can go, Daisy. You can take it.
Okay, so I also want to talk about the transplanted Chicago, the Polish. So basically, it talks about immigration, of course, again, like around the 1600s, 1800s, how Polish people from Poland came here to Jamestown and started concentrating in certain areas. So basically, in around 1914, there was around 2 million people from Poland. But again, it's only the desirable Europeans, So Polish people weren't really that desirable.
No.
They did the same thing they did to the Asians. And they did in 1924 the National Origins Act, which restricted immigration from Poland. And that's what diminished their population here in the United States now.
Right.
Because they weren't desirable enough as, let's say, European, like France or
Spain.
British or Spain.
England.
Not even Spain, because you speak Spanish. I don't know.
England.
England, that they weren't wanted. They were seen like as a minority. You know how in the video they had like the different stages of whiteness. So
Yeah.
they were like in the bottom. They weren't desirable enough. So that's why they did those also.
Yeah, what really floored me is that, when you think that the cultures, how they come over here and they get like naturalized or whatever, you think that, okay, it's going to be fair across the board, and they have something like that and it's taken away from you, and like, skin color plays a big part in America back then and still today, I believe.
Yeah.
But I guess because of their accents, or I guess since Poland have their own language, I'm assuming, right?
Yeah, they have Polish.
Yeah, and I guess since they have an accent, they weren't desirable, and since the people from England didn't, so they have a better accent, they were accepted.
Well, the thing about what I understand, even today, like the difference between like West Europe and East Europe is very different. West Europe is the rich side of Europe.
Yeah.
That's where France, Spain, Portugal, England. Well, and not anymore England because they, the whole economic collapse. That's still pretty good. Germany, those countries are pretty rich. When we talk about Poland, Pakistan, Turkey, like these countries are not rich. They're very poor and impoverished. They're pretty much the same place. So I assume it's the same thing about power and struggle, like the conflict theory, and like how like they're not they're not looked upon because they're poor,
Right.
And it's kind of I think it's kind of foul. I think the whole thing of like you have to love yourself before you love other people is true, because in this case, white people can't even love themselves because there's like a whole division within white people.
Yeah.
And
It's a goddamn shame. It's like, it's not much of your skin color now. It's just like, what part of Europe are you from?
What are you, poor or rich? Y'all got money?
Yeah.
Okay, you can come in. So it's like even within white people, they don't like each other.
Yep.
There's always that, that standard or that but or a way to discriminate no matter what.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can't believe that. Well, in that movie, they had showed something that happened in 1950 that I had no idea that happened, about the Jewish guy. His last name was Frank.
Oh, then who got lynched?
Yeah, and I was like, I never heard of him. What? I never knew that. That was an eye opener for me about how they perception against Jews and the regular white folks that's non-Jewish.
And I guess because if you look at the Polish and the Jewish, they don't assimilate much. They keep to their culture.
Yeah.
And I guess that's what they don't like.
That's absolutely what they like.
Yeah.
What they don't like because they don't have no power over how they think.
Yeah. Because it's still attached to their origin, basically.
Right.
What's your next story?
My next story is Get This Nigger to the Cotton Patch by Jenny Proctor. Well, the slaves were treated pretty cruel, and it's just tell about how the daily activity of the slave and the master, and how the white master was more dominant over black slaves and their families and things like that. And they always say get them to the cotton patch, because in the South the cotton patch was the most lucrative type of merchandise that they produced because of the weather. And England at the time, they needed the cotton because they couldn't produce anything, so they were making a profit off the backs of slaves.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't really enjoy reading all the slander, but it's real life. It was real life.
It's too raw, right? It's just like out there. Raw,
but it's the truth, and sometimes the truth hurts.
Yeah.
So
I think it's better to get the truth, because honestly, what we mostly, it's because we're just used to the fact that history, when we're taught in history classes, we're mostly like, slavery happened. Next thing, what the white man did was amazing.
Right.
And afterwards,
and we have this great society now.
Yeah, we have this great society now. Hold on now. This is still going on, but you're trying to sugarcoat everything you're doing.
Yeah.
And that's basically
brainwash us.
We're probably gonna talk about towards the end of this discussion when we come together. Basically, all of them is in the history books. None of this is discussed. Most of this is eye opening.
Yeah.
So it's pretty. So should I go next?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's your second time.
Okay, and then we can go alright, so my story is called Blacks in the City, No Time to Wait. It was after the civil rights movements during the times around 1960s, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
And it talked about more about African Americans during the time men and women couldn't find jobs. They were unemployed. Most of them were on drugs, alcoholics, or they were dependent so much on the welfare system because if they try to look for a job, no one will hire them.
And if discrimination.
And if someone did hire them, they would only offer them minimum wage jobs like McDonald's, Burger King.
Labor jobs, right?
Yeah, that wouldn't pay enough for an actual living,
right.
So it's kind of talk about how Rodney King, after his murder, the LA riots happened, but that was just a lighter within the whole field of oil,
He wasn't murdered, he was beaten.
He was beaten.
Beaten by a cop.
Alright, then I misinterpreted that.
Yeah.
But it's kind of I don't know, when I was reading this passage, learning it, she was talking about how she had a child and she had to go into welfare because that was the only way she could support her child and have her healthy. And she really tried to go get a job, but it wasn't working with the system that was in place. And it just makes me realize, this is happening right now in South Central. I mean, this has always been South Central. South Central has been, they've declared it a third world country at the time, the same as Central America.
Mm-hmm.
There was no difference because there was gang violence, they were all poor and in poverty. And even now, as slowly as it's coming into the modern day, South Central hasn't really changed over the many years. I had an Uber driver once drive me through my neighborhood. She's like, this neighborhood looks exactly the same, and I lived here 50 years ago.
Wow.
The only thing that was different was an auto zone that they built.
Wow.
But everything else is the same. So it's funny because in Santa Monica, things change every year or so.
Yeah.
I went recently, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a new restaurant, this is a new. I'm like, man,
Oh, they're gonna change it where the money's
No,
at.
it's changing over here. Every day they have like a new smoke shop everywhere. Right? I passed by, I'm like, damn, I was like, that smoke shop wasn't there before. And
Yeah, but that's the thing. Like the smoke shops and stuff, like they're very small things compared to like something like a park.
no, there's just negative
building.
things.
Yeah.
All these
Yeah.
negative things pop up.
You kind of see parks here and there.
You see
Remodeled
parks.
Like it's not all
Yeah.
bad, but it could be better.
Yeah,
It
but like
could
the
be better.
neighborhoods and the roads and everything's just. Yeah, but right now the reason why it's getting better, especially in this area, is because of the football stadium they're building,
Right.
and because they're gonna gentrify this entire like city.
Yeah, gentrification. They're gonna raise the price and move everybody that's here out and bring all the people with the money in.
Even in downtown, I see like a lot of white people there now.
Oh, it's a lot of
But they're
neighborhoods
making new
that
lofts and shit, right?
they're moving back, especially over there in Baldwin Hills. All of them moving. They moving back. You seeing more and more white population.
Because our redlining us out. They were like, hey, it's so expensive for you guys now. Go back to like, I don't know, where the projects now? I don't know.
I don't know where they're gonna move this.
No, they're gonna move into the middle of nowhere.
I think they're gonna do like the
desert.
valley situation where like all the rich people are on the sides and everyone in towards you as you go inward it gets just shittier and shittier.
I don't
Oh no! What did you say that?
Brian, is your turn?
Okay, we're in a book club. Like she needs to know. Like we curse and we say nigger, we say all these stuff. This is the raw things that are in this
Like a lot of
book.
slapping
You
the
know?
little
Well,
camera.
hey, if we are referring to the
You
book, I
are.
don't take it as offense. I mean, 'cause
Like-
we're discussing the
Because
subject.
we're a family, that's why.
Yeah, we are.
No, but that's
we
just
we
like-
do have assimilations. You know,
It
we're
is-
not different.
It is the truth though. Like that's the way things were, and that's the thing things are continuing to be. Like it has not changed. The things that we sugarcoat oh wait, what? No, it's just it's like the way it is, you know.
Okay,
like
so-
there's no other way to like unless you want to use words like negras or.
Brian, can
Brian,
you please conclude?
are you gonna continue?
Okay, so my
I'm sorry.
my story is the one I chose was fleeing English tyranny. The Irish crossed the Atlantic, and the reason I chose this one was because you know how most of the time we hear that it's only Mexicans that come here and immigrate to look for a better life. We never hear like white people's versions, like even though they're white people, but you kind of feel for them because they weren't as rich as say the British or the Germans.
Yeah.
There's some poor country or some poor races in Europe that are poor and that they're trying to look for a better life. So these are white. They're white people. They're the Irish, and they came to America looking for a better life. They were, like it says here, fleeing the English tyranny because the British at the time was becoming an empire, or they were already an empire, so they were trying to find a better life because they weren't getting much done in Europe. And this story talks about how they crossed the Atlantic, the horrible crossing. This is right here. The crossing was traumatic. Like the boats, they were crowded, and it was horrible. Like how you kind of see today the Hispanics trying to come to the United States. How they they risk their life in the deserts. Like
to the rivers,
like the Rio Grande. They so many people die there. That's the one in Texas, the one that separates the United States and Mexico. There's so many people that cross it. They know that they're gonna die. They risk their life, but they still do it just to look for a better life. And that's what the Irish did. And they came and they actually helped. I mean, most Irish immigrants they're the ones that helped do trains, the railroad. Most Irish women came here to look they worked in factories and
they made like bridges and stuff like that, right?
They helped the American economy the way it is, and in America it seems like they don't appreciate it. They say it was the white people, the ones that were here, like the Europeans, like the founding fathers. They say that they're the ones that founded this country. It's like, no, they didn't. I mean, I feel like we all founded this country because without us, there wouldn't be America.
They're raping our people.
Exactly.
Taking credit for nothing that happened.
Yeah, I think they went across the board with different races and did their thing, and blacks, we get the harshest end of the stick because they forced us. We didn't ask to come over here, and they tell us to go back to Africa. Hold on, our ancestors been gone from Africa for like hundreds of years, and how are we gonna go back to something that we were never? Yeah, we never.
Like you brought us here,
and so we don't know our true culture. And with that story with the Irish, they were forced to be cramped in a poor area where the sanitation wasn't good, so they suffered from disease. And they had to be tough, and they formed gangs just to keep together. You know what I'm saying? So it was rough for them too.
Yeah.
Well, Dr. Wright, this concludes our book club. Bye.
Read it.